Okay, guys, so ultimately what we got to take a look at here is if we are opening up some different parts in here, we're going to start to do an assembly. So we're going to just go ahead and go up here to the show data panel, the 9 squares. I'm going to click on that. I have a folder that says Thingamajig. You probably have a tab that says recent data. So go ahead and open up the recent data portion. I'm going to start off with my Trombley 2x4. I'm going to just double click on that, and it's going to put it into my plane over here. So I'm going to start to add different parts to it, and I'm going to start to assemble it. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here to Trombley extruded aluminum. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to insert into current design. Okay, so it puts it at the origin because that's where my sketch started. So that's not where I want it. So you see these, there are different arrows on here. So I'm just going to click it and drag it out of the way because now I can start to fit it to where it needs to be. I'm just going to hit enter. Okay, so now from here, what I want to do is I want to go through and line up this part, right, the extruded aluminum on the little nub that's sticking out of the 2x4. So I'm going to go up here to the top, and I'm going to see how you got the assemble tab up top. So there's a different types of joints that you can choose. So I'm just gonna so if you click on that and you look at the different joints, we can start to mess with some of these if you want, but I think we just keep it simple for today. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just click joint. Now look at what happens. It ends up highlighting one of the components here. It didn't do that for you? Did it do it for everybody else? So did you click the joint part, the joint tab? Okay, so it'll be fine. So just go with the next part. All right, we'll see if the rest of it works. Okay, so what I want to do is remember that we have the different holes, right? We put the holes in there for us to assemble with a bolt. So I'm going to zoom in on this piece on the inside, right? I'm going to zoom in on the inside of this part, and I'm going to click on that hole, right? So now I'm going to select the other piece that I need to put it on. And so I'm going to select this hole on the top, okay? So when I do that, it puts it in place. Now, if we look at that, that's clearly not where I want it, right? It's not where I want it because it's not a tight fit. That would be impossible to actually do. Does that make sense? You guys see what it did there? So while it lined it up, let me go ahead and go back. Okay. Again, I'm going assemble. I'm going to click on the joint part. And this is just what I've learned over the past, few years of doing CAD and whatnot. So I always try to make it so that notice I'm going the inside of the extruded aluminum piece on the hole, and I'm going the top of the little part that jets out, okay? Because it's going to want to mate those two surfaces together, okay? If I clicked on the top, watch what happens if I clicked on the top part, okay? Some of you guys might be like, well, what difference does it make? Okay, well, let's look at what happens. If I click on the top of this right here, and I click on the top of this, it puts those surfaces together, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does that like inversely for me, so should I just click the other one?
Yeah. Yep. So you're going to have to kind of play around with this and see how it works for you. So again, I'm going to go ahead, click assemble, click the circle, it makes the joint. Okay, now if we look at this, now the holes are matching up, but it's not really where I want it to be. So notice over here on the side, it has joint alignment. and it has angles and offsets. Okay, you see those things? So if I offset it, right? And again, I can do that by clicking and dragging if I want, but nobody really wants that. Okay. It always, the CAD will give you uh what you give it, right? So so if there's garbage in, it's going to give you garbage out. So right now it wants to go right there. Okay. But you can adjust those things with the offsets, which is kind of a nice little feature because it says, hey, are you sure this is where you want it? Okay. And then if it's not, then you can mess with it. So ultimately, I want to rotate this 90 degrees. So I'm going to go at the angle here, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in 90. Oop, type in 90. And we see that it rotated that around. Do you guys see what it do that? Okay. So right now, if I'm looking at this, what I would like for you guys to do is make sure that the slit, right, the side that has the cut in it, make sure that that is pointing towards the short side. Make sure that's on the short side. Okay. So if it's not on the short side here, if you could just keep rotating it around until it fits, then that would be great. Okay. This makes sense, guys? Now over here, I just want to point this out, is in the top part for the joint, there's a motion tab. Okay. So you can actually make it so that you can, there's different types. This is rigid, right? Which is just a regular joint. It's going to put them together. Now, what you can do with CAD, and this is kind of cool, is you can have it do different things. You can animate this stuff later on. We don't need to do that because it's not necessary, but you totally could. You could go ahead here and put in a revolute, um, where you can basically click on the holes and it will make it go in a circle, right? You can animate it going in a circle. Well, that wouldn't make sense for what we're doing because we just want it to slide over the top. You could uh, go here with a slider function, okay? That could actually kind of work kind of nicely for if you chose the inside part, but since we chose the circles to line up, that wouldn't make sense for us. So just wanted to point that out to you guys that those are options. So I'm going to click OK. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a look through the different views because I really want to make sure that the holes line up, right? So that's why I went to the top. And if I look up here, the holes are lined up, which is what I want. Okay. I'm going to look at this view, right? I'm going to go with the left view. You can see that you've got the cut portion on the short side. So I'm just going to go back to the home button, right? And this is what we've got. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Right? I'm going to save this as assembly. Okay. So, but actually, if you notice up here at the top, it still has it under the Trombley 2x4 version 2. Okay, because that's the sketch that I opened up first. Does that make sense? So next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another part to this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to show data panel. So I'm going to go with the bent aluminum piece. Okay, so I'm going to go look at the bent aluminum piece. I'm going to right click and insert into current design. So again, it throws it in there right at the origin because that's where I made my sketch. So I'm going to click and I'm drag that out of my way so then I can get a better feel for where I want this to go. And I'm just going to hit enter. Okay. Doesn't really matter which part where you move it to. Just make sure it's out of the way. I'm going to X out of there so I can view this a little bit better. Now remember, when we drilled these out, we made sure that we wanted to match up the hole here. We wanted to match up this hole on the extruded aluminum with the hole that we made in the, oh, I'm sorry, we wanted to match up the hole in the bent aluminum with the extruded aluminum with the 2x4, right? All those things going together. So now I'm going to go back to my joint and I'm going to click on the center hole here of the bent aluminum. And I'm going to click on the center hole of that. and it moves it into place. Okay. So this is not where I want it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to put it, it gives me a random number in here. For some reason, it put it at negative 90 degrees. It might have yours at 0 degrees. It doesn't matter, right? What you want to make sure is that you adjust this so that it fits where you want it to go. So what we're going to want to do is line up this edge, the edge with the 2 holes in it. I want that to be off to the side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this at 0 degrees just to see what happens. Okay. And so notice that it rotated it to the side with the cut on it. Okay. It rotated to the side with the cut on it. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the other side. I want that vertical part of the bent aluminum to go on the other side there. Okay. So I'm going to make this 180. So it goes over to that side. And I'm going to click OK. So now, if I take a look at my cube over here, I can start to move through the different views. Okay. So far, so good. So, anybody notice any issues? What do you notice? Go ahead. Yep. So if we look at where this bent piece went, okay, the bent piece, what we want to have is we want that to be on top of that, right? It's going to be impossible, right, for you to actually, fish that through. It doesn't happen. Okay, so there's an error in where we placed it. So when I clicked on this, chances are I clicked on the top of that extruded or the bent aluminum piece, and I clicked on the top of the extruded aluminum piece. So if you actually look at this, the tops are actually matched up where, right there. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna double click on that. Okay, so down here on my timeline, you guys see that what I did there? I double click down here on my timeline at the bottom, okay, and it's giving me the joint. The joint part popped up. So now I can either offset it in the Z. Okay, notice if I click this one and move this up, the Z offset changes. You guys see that? So before it was at 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make that offset. Let's see, that thickness was 1/8 of an inch, I believe. So I'm going to type in, again, I don't want to do the math because 5 out of 4 people have difficulty with fractions. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch. Whoa, that is not what I wanted to do. All right, something weird happened there. Go back to double click at the bottom. The Z offset. Let's try this again. 1 divided by 8. Not entirely sure why it's going like that. For some reason, it's not doing my math for me. All right, so I'll type in 0.125. Oh, but notice that it moved it actually in the wrong direction. So I'm going to make it negative. Yeah. So now it actually matches up. So I can click OK, and all is well. Okay. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to play around with those offsets, that's fine. I'll just go back. Right. I'll just go back to it. Beep, bop, boop. Okay. And then let's see. I'm going to go to the home button. Right. So now if I want to, if I want to double check this, right? If I want to just do it again, go assemble. I'm going to actually pivot this around so I can actually see this from I'm going to use my cube over here, and I'm going to make sure I can see it actually from the bottom view. I'm going to go to the bottom view of this, of the aluminum piece, of the bent aluminum. I'm going to highlight the circle. Now I'm going to go back to the other view. Whoa. I'm going to go back to this view, go to the top here, and there we go. Okay, but again, the angles are all wrong. So I'm going to type this as 180 so I can shift it around. 180, not 1800. Click OK. I'm going to move through my different views to see exactly where I am. And this is kind of what we need. You guys see that? So what I'm looking at here is that this edge, is that the edge of this bent piece is lining up with the edge of this extruded aluminum piece. Okay. So far, so good? Okay, so we might as well just let's keep going with this. The part that you need to make, is going to involve creating a piece that is going to cover this bent part of like this entire side of the bent aluminum piece, as well as this part of the extruded aluminum. Okay, so if we're looking at this right now, you could potentially do your sketch right on this surface. Okay, so all I want you to make is a rectangle that fits over the top of this and extends down to the bottom edge of this. Okay, so you might ask yourself, how do I do that? All right, well, we went ahead and we assembled all this stuff. Let's go ahead and click save just to make sure that we're good. Click save. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to my sketch, create sketch, and it wants to know a plane. So I'm just going to click right on the edge of this bent piece to make my life easy. Okay. So now you can go ahead and create your rectangle that's going to cover the different pieces. Okay. So that's for you to do, but that's probably the easiest way to do it. Okay. So I'm going to leave that to you to do. You shouldn't have any issues with that. All I need you to do is once you create that part, that piece, I actually want you to, you're going to have to save it as a separate file, and I'll show you how to do that when you're ready. Okay. I don't think we're ready for that yet because we said we wanted to 3D print those pieces. So that's going to be tomorrow. So I'll go over that with you tomorrow if you'd like. But I think that's enough for you to do for now. If you have questions, let me know.